There was a woman there who played a beautiful flute, violins, percussion instruments. And every single morning when we did that mantra with different melodies, because it was almost like a competition to write the most beautiful melody to the mantra, And I once compiled a book of 120 different melodies. Not some of them I wrote, but most of them were written by other people in the community. Because, people ask me, oh, this one is so beautiful. This one is so beautiful. But now I lost the book. So at some point I'll have to sit down and try to manifest it, But every single morning when we would start playing, almost within minutes, those same tears, which I came to, I learned that they're called by yogis the nectar of devotion, are the tears that come from the open heart, not sadness, the nectar of devotion.
Good morning, good evening, good night, good day, whatever. You made the time to be here again in another episode of the Kundalini Awakening podcast. And I'm so delighted. I know every time I'm really delighted, but today I'm so happy that Guru Ganesha is here. I just met him over the summer at the Mela Yoga Festival, but I was singing his songs for years already, not ever expecting to meet him. And finally, he's here on the podcast. Welcome, Guru Ganesha.
Wow,
The
so
Satnam.
nice to be with you again.
Ah, so
Yeah,
wonderful.
we had a fun in Sweden, huh?
Oh, I said I didn't know what to expect. I thought you were gonna do some workshop, but it turned into an all-round concert. Everybody jumping, dancing, and even
Well, they
the
said they
video.
wanted a workshop. I decided to do a play shop, instead of a workshop.
Yeah, I don't think you can really make people work. That's not in your vibration, honestly.
No, no,
Ah,
no. We had a really good time, and we meditated in between the singing and dancing. So I fulfilled my requirements to the festival. And then Saturday night we played for everybody. The last concert of the week, and that was really reignited something inside me too.
because
'Cause
you've been playing music how long? Like, when did
well,
you pick
I,
up
I just
a music instrument?
I just turned 75, and I was started playing the guitar in 1958 when I was 8 years old. It's an interesting story because there's a famous television show back then in the United States called the Ed Sullivan Show, and he would have that's where the Beatles first appeared in the US, was on the Ed Sullivan Show. It was a family show every Sunday night from 8 to 9 p.m. I still remember because as a boy I was so excited. My father loved the show, my mother loved the show, my sister loved the show, and we had the only TV in the neighborhood, and we were in Natick, Massachusetts, and near Boston, and we'd invite everybody over. And another reason my father wanted to watch the show was that his cousin, who I guess is my second cousin or uncle, I don't know, family, was the studio guitar player on the Ed Sullivan Show, and every now and then, once or twice during the show, the camera would show the guys in the band, and my father would get excited, jump out of his big lazy boy chair, and say, "There's your cousin, High White." And I'm like, wow, look at, man, my cousin is a star, he plays guitar on television. So I was always asking, when are we going to see him in person? When are we going to see him? And finally, my father said, okay, we're going this weekend up to see your cousin High White. He lived in New Rochelle, New York. We get up there, and one of the first things he did is, because my mother told him I was enthusiastic about his guitar playing, he brought us down into the basement, and his whole basement was like a big music room. He must have had 40, 50 guitars hanging on hooks all over the basement. He had a finished basement. And my jaw just dropped. And he looked at me and he said, pick one out. And I didn't quite know what he meant. So I looked at all the guitars and I ended up pointing at this semi-hollow body Guild electric guitar, but it was semi-hollow. So it had an acoustic sound too. And I pointed at that one and he said, "You would pick my most expensive guitar, wouldn't you?" And he pulls it off the wall and he hands it to me and he says, "Michael," that was my born name. He says, "Michael, it's yours. And just learn how to play it. Will you promise me that?" And I said, "Oh, yes, for sure." So I went home with this beautiful professional guitar. And on the drive home, my mother said, "All right, well, we're going to get you lessons because you gave your commitment that you would learn how to play." And she was she was determined that I was going to follow through on that. She got me a very tough, a gentleman who had just come from Italy, who was a classical guitarist named George Zicella, and he was a taskmaster, and I needed it because, I'm just a free spirit, playful, just want to play baseball, but he made me work. And so, and he taught me how to use both hands properly, how to play. And so for 3 years, I had lessons with him. Finally, I wore my mother down because I just wanted to play baseball and basketball and football. And so she said, "Okay, okay." And I put the guitar away in the closet, but I had learned a goodly amount. And then about a year and a half later, on Sunday night, the Beatles appear for the first time. George and Paul and John and Ring. And the first song they played, I think, was "She Loves You." Yeah, yeah. But in any event, I'd never seen anything like that before. And I'm thinking, and then the audience is filled with girls screaming. And of course, by that time, I'm 13 years old. I'm going, wow, that's all you have to do is stand up and strum a guitar and all the girls will be screaming about you. So I said, I had one of those in my closet, the guitar, and I pulled it out. And I started playing again. And within 6 months, I started my first band at age 13. So I've been playing pretty seriously now for about, how many years is that? 60, well, from 68 years, but actually doing gigs and performances and things for over 60 years.
Incredible.
And I'm still not good. I still have so much to learn. But I have fun with it. It's like an extension of me.
It's very humbling to hear you say, "I'm still not good." I've seen what you did on stage with your
I just know where it can be, and I'm still where, it's keeping me young though. And interestingly, because I use my hands so much, I don't have any arthritis in them. And I know a lot of my friend musicians, they got into their 70s and all of a sudden they get arthritis and it's painful to even try to play.
And what makes it that you don't have it?
Well, I think my diet is focused on reducing inflammation to the absolute minimum. I think one of the main reasons when people age is their hips and their lower back and their knees and shoulders start aching is inflammation. And I found this magical, turmeric is kind of a magical substance, but it has to be mixed properly. And I have a friend of mine who is, he's a healer. He said he found the perfect kind of turmeric curcumin combination, and he sent it to me, and I ordered it, and I'm like, wow, I've been taking it now for a couple of years, and sometimes I can just, if I'm starting to feel like I broke my kneecap in half about 10 years ago, actually, and nothing was helping. I had 2 surgeries. I didn't want a knee replacement. But since I've been taking these tablets, my knee almost feels normal again. So I could be a salesman for this stuff, but
Talk about selling.
When you believe in something, you tell people about it,
Yeah.
But I've been telling a lot of my friends in my generation, the people that are lucky enough to still be alive. in
Incredible.
their 70s and 80s, you know.
You just told me just before we started that actually your Spirit Voyage label was completely financed. You had a completely different career before that.
Yeah, and that career is still going on. I have been delivering sales training, teaching people in a very uh, conscious, integrity-based way of selling that's designed to be 180 degrees opposite of the way the typical pushy kind of salesperson. It's always trying to convince you. I mean, we've all had it. Haven't you had a bad experience at some point with the typical salesperson?
Of course.
Yeah. And, as a result, people are a little defensive when they get in front of somebody they perceive to be selling something, And so my company called Conscious Selling Incorporated, and I'm a co-founder, and we work primarily with business to business salespeople who with companies that sell complex, big dollar technical solutions to other large companies. Because everybody has got to automate. It's gotten so competitive. So everybody's looking for the edge out there in terms of speed and effectiveness and all of that. But it's been kind of fun because it's also a form of entertainment. Because unless you capture usually I'm not doing as much on site as I used to. I used to deliver 100 days on site a year in that neighborhood. And you'd have groups anywhere from 25, sometimes a kickoff, you have 1,500, 2,000 salespeople there. And they don't have big attention spans. Most salespeople have a little bit of attention deficit disorder like me, They're high energy people, but their mind is hyperactive, going a mile a minute, and can easily be distracted, So I have to do like sales comedy. I have to get in front of them and immediately tell them some bad jokes. And if I can get them laughing, then they're receptive to the educational message,
Exactly. You have to open the heart. Doesn't matter where, right? You start with opening the heart.
You have to open their heart up, and laughter is a wonderful way.
Yes.
I think, whatever God, goddess there is, and I believe in a super and benevolent super intelligence, got a hell of a sense of humor, don't you think?
Yes, it is so powerful. I give laughing yoga classes, and
Oh, you do laughing yoga.
yeah, I've been taught. Yeah, and I'm teaching, and it's powerful. It's like it doesn't matter how much they stretch, how much they can or cannot. I get you laughing. If I don't get you laughing, somebody next to you will get you laughing because you cannot stop it.
That's so wonderful. And when you're laughing, your navel point is doing exactly what it does when you do breath of fire,
Yeah, right.
And your navel's going back and forth and massaging all these nerves that intersect about an inch behind the navel point, and it starts releasing Kundalini energy.
Yeah.
So I love my wife and I in the evenings for entertainment. When we have free time, we like to watch good stand-up comedians,
Yeah.
so we can laugh for an hour.
Wow.
But do you have some video of your laughing yoga posted?
No, actually, I do it live. I just get invited. I don't know the crowd, and I just do the laughing yoga.
Do me a favor, make a video sometime so we can enjoy it too. I love to see what laughing yoga class looks like.
Yeah, but it's kind of interesting invitation. Maybe I could do an online laughing yoga class on our Sangha day.
I would certainly share that with my network, and I think you'd get people because people need it right now.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know if that's because what happens is that the energy that is released ignites the other, and then ignites the other. It's like this sequence of how do you call it? gunpowder. You just light one in the trail, and it lights
Yeah,
another one, and
yeah.
lights another one. You cannot stop it, right? I mean, if
Once the
everybody starts
energy
laughing,
gets flowing, it's like a river.
yeah, yeah. No, I definitely will. Or maybe next year at Mela Yoga, you just tell them to
Yeah, no
give me one
worry.
spot. I'll go. I'll do a live
Oh,
lesson.
that would be great if you offered that, or maybe I'll have you come up when we're doing our workshop, and do a 5-minute laughing yoga piece, with a little background music.
That's too
We'll
funny.
figure it out. We'll figure it
Yeah.
out. And
So,
I see you're a man with a lot of joy. I can tell. And so whatever you're doing, man, keep doing it.
well, dear
And
listeners,
I like
you hear this energy. He's 75, but you can feel the energy from this conversation. It is just incredible. Oh my God. I don't know where to start. You've done so much. Hey, let's go back. You never thought you'd be into Kundalini, right?
oh
When
no,
did you,
no, no. Yeah, I
what
never.
was your thought of your future
Yeah, it
before
wasn't,
Kundalini?
it wasn't like I set a goal to do. No, I didn't even know about yoga. When I got to college, I immediately started what we call an acid rock band called Cat's Cradle. And acid means, LSD, right? Grateful Dead being the most, well-known example of an acid rock band, because they were, and back then anyways, they would take LSD before their performances. So we were trying to live up to the genre. We would even drop acid before rehearsals. And but after about 3 years of that, I must have done maybe 150 to 200 LSD trips, which is a lot, maybe even more than Timothy Leary or, you know, Richard Alpert. I had this inner voice that was crying out, and I was just barely starting to hear it. And the voice was saying, hey, man, you better find some alternative way to feel good, or you're going to die. You're going to kill yourself with drugs, because, we weren't just doing LSD. We were trying everything. That was the age back then, 68 to 72, when I was in college, was a wild time. We were out in the streets, millions of us protesting the war in Vietnam. And, it was kind of a crazy time. But so very soon thereafter, I'm sitting in a student union at Smith College in Northampton, which at the time was just 100% women's school. And they would have a mixer, and they would invite the men from Holy Cross and Worcester Polytech to a dance. And they hired us. We played it fairly regularly, my band Cat's Cradle. And, they wanted kind of rock and roll, which was what everybody wanted at the time. So we're there right after sound check. I'm sitting in the student union. I had already become a vegetarian. And I was eating a Dannon yogurt with the fruit on the bottom. I used to love those back then. And somebody's walking around holding up a flyer. And a voice kind of came out of me. I barely even was conscious of saying anything. It says, oh, I'll have one of those. And the person comes walking towards me, and they're holding an 8.5 by 11-inch flyer with the picture of Yogi Bhajan on it. And it said, classes in Kundalini Yoga as taught by Yogi Bhajan at the Smith Boathouse. It was on campus, this boathouse, Thursday night. So the following, I was living in Williamsburg for a while. In fact, the lyricist in our band took me out to his friends who had a log cabin, because I had my third really bad LSD trip. And he took me out there and he said, okay, man, they're going to take care of you. You got to get off the drugs, So I'm out there, no drugs around. There are books on yoga all over the place. And, but in any event, so I ended up, the band got this gig near where I was staying. And, so I came to play with the band. I found out about the yoga class. The next Thursday night, I hitchhiked to the class. And there's only like 3 people in the class, and I'm sitting dead center. the teacher, I thought it was Yogi Bhajan, this tall guy with a long beard, big turban, intense eyes. Turned out it was Bhagwan Singh, who's still a friend of mine to this day. First exercise, stretch pose. You know what stretch pose is? Right? Legs 6 inches, head 6. I'd never lift my legs like that off the ground for even an inch, for even a second. And I'm in agony 30 seconds into it, and he's screaming at me to keep up, keep up. I ended up keeping up for 3 full minutes. Then we go into a deep relax, and man, I must have started astral traveling after 3 minutes of stretch pose. And I said, wow, this is better than drugs. This Kundalini yoga is better than LSD. So we did the whole class. At the end, there's a deep relaxation, and then we come out of it. And he had a guy from Puerto Rico with him, a young man with a few hairs on his chin and a nylon string guitar. And he started chanting to Guru Ram Das, Guru Guru Wahi, Guru Guru Ram Das Guru, which I've since that moment, it's been my personal mantra. But he started singing that, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, tears start pouring out of my eyes. And they're not tears of sadness. They were tears coming from here, almost of joy, of feeling like I had found my home. It was like the gate of my heart had been ripped open, the padlock was broken, and all of a sudden, all this blissful energy comes pouring up. My eyes are these are tears of bliss. And so at the end of the class, I got up and I went up to Yogi, who I thought was Yogi Bhajan. I said, Mr. Bhajan. He looked at me and goes, ha, 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 ha. I'm not Yogi Bhajan. And I said to him, well, I don't know who you are then or where you guys came from, but take me with you. And they looked at that's what it was like in those days, and they looked at each other and laughed and they go, okay. And they took me back to the ashram with them. There was an ashram that I didn't know about. I didn't know these people existed, It was a ashram in Montague, Mass. And interestingly enough, I arrived there, 8 o'clock at night, after the class or something. And there's 60 people there. It was the beginning of a weekend Kundalini yoga intensive, which now I look back and I realize there are no accidents in life. The universe kind of delivered me to this class, opened my heart up, then delivered me to this whole weekend retreat. And so one more joke. So I'm looking around saying, what's going on? He says, we're having a retreat. And then he said, hey, you can sleep here. Everybody's, mats are laid out, 60 people sleeping on the floor in the sadhana room. And then I'm trying to remember, what did he say to me? He said to me, and by the way, we're going to be getting up at 3:30 tomorrow. I said, well, that's great. That's when I get up every day, 3:30 in the afternoon. I'm a musician. We'd stay up all night playing. And he said, no, we're getting up at 3:30 a.m. and taking cold showers. I said, what? Have I ended up in a crazy house? It sort of was a crazy house. So, but I've been part of the community ever since then, and it's had, as you probably heard, it's had its ups and downs. And there's a sad story, maybe we tell it another time, about what happened with Yogi Bhajan and so forth. But I still relate to the community in a big way. And where I live, it's kind of very enlightened part of the community, very all accepting and people with a spectrum of views on what happened with Yogi Ji, but getting along instead of fighting.
Yeah.
Because we had kind of a big falling out in the community. And we could talk about it if you want or not. But
it's up to you. It's I'm inviting you on the podcast.
Just for the record, then, it came to light in 2020, and we kind of were holding Yogi Bhajan because he brought these, he was like the mailman. He delivered these great gifts, the yoga, meditation. He's a really good yoga teacher, great meditation teacher, pranayama, mantras, chanting, so many things that I think we pedestalized him. You know, we put him up on a pedestal, probably blew his mind how high us Westerners put this great yogi from the East up on the pedestal. And it turns out that, you know, sometimes people, when they're too high up on a pedestal and people are relating to him as God and they literally have absolute power, sometimes the power can be abused, you know. So the way I look at, and in 2020, one of his closest people, a woman named Premka at the time, now Pamela, wrote a book about her 14 years with Yogi Ji, and it was a kind of a tell-all tale about what happened to her almost from day one, that she was being sexually abused. But it turns out that dozens of other women emerged. We ended up having our own Me Too movement within 3HO, you know, within the Kundalini yoga community. And it was very, you know, it was a dark night of the soul for me, because I was, you know, looking at him like the Pope, infallible, you know. And, you know, I didn't want to believe it at first, but after hearing the stories of one-on-one in some instances, because a lot of these women were my sisters or, you know, spiritual daughters who trusted me, and they call up and say, hey, I don't know what to do. This happened to me. I tried telling my parents 20 years ago, they wouldn't believe me, but I'm still carrying this, and I, you know, have never been the same, because he was their, almost like their spiritual grandfather or spiritual father. So in any event, the community kind of fragmented into two. The people who, understandably on a certain level, did not want to believe that any of this could be true. And, you know, they basically were saying that the dozens of women who were coming forward were being paid off by somebody, were lying. But then about half to 2/3 of the community were we call acknowledgers. After listening to, we believe the women, we believe our own, and they, you know, even the second generation were now in their 40s or so, you know. And these are beautiful people with raising beautiful families, careers, but still being burdened carrying this. And we created a venue for them to share their stories. We spent 11 hours listening to one after another tell their story. And when you go through something like that, if you just really open yourself and listen, I knew this stuff had happened, and it crossed the chasm for me. And so, you know, it's kind of like someone you love almost dies. And he had passed away in 2004, but it's kind of like all of a sudden finding out the person that you felt was like almost as high as Jesus the Christ, right, had this whole other dark side, and you were devoted to this path for 50 plus years. So almost kind of everything almost comes into question for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Was this thing totally a con job? You know, so he could do this. And there was also financial corruption involved. But I've come through the processing and I realized, you know what? This stuff that worked for me still works. And it doesn't matter where it came from, because everything comes from the one, there's one energy, right, that manifests all of us. And so in a way, I look at Yogi Ji and I say, you know, I was angry at him for a while. I'm not going to say I've totally forgiven him yet, but I'm not angry anymore. I feel like the universe brought him to me at a time when I needed what he carried, what he delivered. And he was a teacher to me then. And then learning about this kind of secret life that he had is also a great teaching. And I realized that all 8 billion people on the planet, Sandesh, am I pronouncing your name correctly, Sandesh?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, good. All 8 billion people on the planet are my teachers, all of them, because God comes through everybody. God lives in every heart. I can't prove it. I just believe this. Some people teach me what to do. Maybe even more people teach me what not to do. But you know what, Sandesh? I think those people are the greatest teachers, the ones that Yogi Ji did both for me. First, he taught me what to do. Then he taught me what not to do. And one way to look at it is this is how the universe teaches. And in any event, I can't prove anything. There are profound unknowns that we're all dealing with, correct?
Yes. And
And
I must say to you, I think I also went through this, and I sat, felt, meditated on it, and nobody's only light. The universe has both sides, and everybody
that,
of us has a shadow side. And
that's
to 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 say no, we are only light. It's just not acknowledging, I think,
that's
reality. And I'm not saying it's right what he did, but you're right. I think the lessons have been learned, and I myself, I'm a much younger generation, right? I came in contact in
yeah.
this life in 2011, I think.
Yeah, 7 years after he passed.
Yeah, and so I know it works, and the teachings work for
Right.
me, and and I continue to gratitude for that. And I think honestly, anybody in great power position will be controlled and corrupted by this power, because you cannot control power. Power will control you. It's not the first time, and it will not be the last time.
No, not the first time, right? It's hey, let's face it, it's a big temptation. And you're right. I struggle with my own demons. I have dark and light inside of me.
Mm.
I'm just trying in my actions to walk the talk. You know, even though I have desires sometimes and temptation appears, I resist
And you do every day still yoga. How's your
every
practice?
day, man. I'm feeling good. I woke up with a headache this morning. I'd start with a kind of a hot shower to wash, but then I have an ice cold tub next to the shower, and I get in it every single. Boy, they talk about a cold shower. Try a cold tub, and I sit in as long as I can, and then I immediately go to my yoga mat, and I tell you, after that cold bath, 10, 15 minutes of stretching, because at my age, you kind of create your own sets because you have so many things that you're, you know, and as a yogi, you start to get super in tune with if something is even slightly out of balance, or if there's a muscle or some soft tissue that's about to go out, you can start to feel it, and you intuitively know what to do to adjust it. It's a beautiful thing. And I mean, yoga is just the union. It's
Yeah.
from the word yoke, to unite mind, body, and spirit. But you spend so much time inside, you start to know yourself better.
And
Because if you're always outside or always looking into screens, well, you know a lot about the outside, which is infinite as well, but you don't know as much about the inside.
and when did you in your life decide, okay, this is going to be the base of my life, this Kundalini yoga energy, this is going to be the base, this is going to be my main compass? When was that?
Well, I moved into the ashram in Washington, D.C. soon after all of that happened up in Massachusetts. And when I knew this was going to be my path was not during a yoga class, it was during morning sadhana. At that time, every single day, after the yoga and then some long ekongkars, we did 31 minutes of singing, chanting to Guru Ramdas, Guru Guru I, Guru Guru Ramdas, Guru. And in Washington, D.C., so many musicians became attracted to the community because of the music. And Sometimes in the morning, we would have 3 or 4 guitars, 2 or 3 harmoniums. There was a woman there who played a beautiful flute, violins, percussion instruments. And every single morning when we did that mantra with different melodies, because it was almost like a competition to write the most beautiful melody to the mantra, you know. And I once compiled a book of 120 different melodies. Not some of them I wrote, but most of them were written by other people in the community. Because, you know, people ask me, oh, this one is so beautiful. This one is so beautiful. But now I lost the book. So at some point I'll have to sit down and try to manifest it, you know. But every single morning when we would start playing, almost within minutes, those same tears, which I came to, I learned that they're called by yogis the nectar of devotion, are the tears that come from the open heart, not sadness, the nectar of devotion. And I would get that nectar almost every single morning that's when I knew I was home. And, you know, we're still doing it. And I've started up we did it for my 75th birthday. We had maybe 35 folks in the local community. We all chanted the Guru Ram Das for 31 minutes. And at one point we did it every single night in this community in Herndon, Virginia, near Washington, D.C. for 13 and a half years, every single night in a different house. Okay. That's if Yogi Ji gave us when he was here. The community was going through a lot of stuff. A lot of people left the community, maybe for some of the reasons I was talking about. They heard about it and believed it. But when it happened, I called up Yogi Ji and say, you know, we're really going through a difficult time. Well, he said, chant the Guru Ram Das 31 minutes every night in a different house. And who's ever hosting serves up the most beautiful dessert they can conjure up and yogi tea. So we had that going 13 and a half years. So even the people who weren't getting up for the morning sadhana could go to the evening one. And by the way, one thing I've learned via the aging process about inflammation, speaking of which, sleep is the number one most important thing if you want to reduce the amount of inflammation in your body. And I mean a good night's sleep, 7-8 hours of sleep. So, I did a 3:30 a.m. I woke up at 3:30 a.m. almost every day for a quarter of a century. I calculated about 25 years. Then I started to transition into a less strict regime because I realized that sleep deprivation as a spiritual practice was highly overrated, you know.
Yeah, and it's also, I think it's a different time, right? The yogis who were in the past who did that, they didn't have the busyness of life like we have now, you know.
And electricity and lights.
Yeah, we need to recover much more than when it was invented.
It's like solstice. When we do solstices, nobody had television, everybody's tenting. You'd fall asleep when it got dark. Mm-hmm. You go to sleep early, so it was easier to get up at 3:30 than if you go to sleep at midnight, you know.
Exactly.
After a heavy midnight snack.
Hey, and you've although everything has happened, you did achieve, for my view, quite something. You brought a label to the world, Spirit Voyage.
Yeah, it still lives.
Can you tell us about that? Like, how did that come to?
Well, I'll tell you the story. It was 19. By the way, it started January 2000, right? You know, kind of cosmically. I didn't plan it that way. It just meant that its official start was like first week of January 2000, the new millennium. But in 1997, I was getting an adjustment by a local chiropractor in our community. And he said to me, Guru Ganesha, I'm feeling that there's a hole in your heart. There's something that you need to be doing in your life that you're not doing that will fill that. And it was funny because I had been feeling something in my heart for quite some time, but I hadn't been able to put my finger on it. And I realized right at that moment, oh, wow, he's right. You know, I've been doing a lot of music in the community, but it was kind of living room music. And there was a part of me that still longed to get out there and share it with a wider, I don't even like to use the word audience, because I call what we do co-performances, not performances, you know. But you know, I had been in a band for 3 years. We had landed a recording contract with Pierce Southern Music. We even did a whole demo album and a kind of a dream come true in a beautiful studio, like up on the 70th floor of the Empire State Building. And I felt like, you know, at the time, and actually we did the recording right after I joined the ashram, and I was kind of moving away from the band because they were still on the drugs, but they landed this contract and they you know, talked me into coming up there, you know. But you know, every morning I was trying to get up to do my yoga, and they were like torturing me. They were waking me up with a big bong in my mouth. You know, I'd open my eyes, I'd say, "What are you doing? You know, I stopped doing this, guys. I'm working on myself here. You got to leave." But I ended up realizing that I couldn't be in the band anymore. I needed, because the temptations were too strong, to fall back into my old habits, which were killing me, to be honest, you know. And so I left the band, but there was something about that life that I loved, being on the road, going city to city, meeting new people, touching people and uplifting people with the music. I mean, it's a tremendously addictive high, you know. So when he said to me in 1997, I said, geez, you're right. I need this. There's so much beautiful music happening in the community, you know, that we're kind of hoarding to ourselves, just keeping it in the living room or in the yoga, just in the yoga centers, that I thought, especially Sanatam Kaur at the time, and I'd known her since she was little. Her father was father and mother, very dear friends of mine. And even when she was 5 years old, she was walking around singing all the time. And even then I was like, I felt like she had a gift. She had a gift, like there was something being channeled through her. So I wanted to start recording her properly and getting her music out. So finally in 2000, and I also decided, you know, I became her guitar player and her business manager at the same time. And that was kind of the front end of Spirit Voyage, was starting to record. We started a band with Ganesha Singh called Peace Family. And we did 3 albums together, and they're very well kept secrets. But there's some beautiful, it's Sanatam's first really professionally recorded stuff. And then during that process, I realized, you know, we have to roll out that it was, we were doing on the albums we did, we were doing 2 of my compositions, 2 of Liptar's compositions, and 2 of Sanatam's compositions. But it was her stuff that was really resonating out there. People loved it. Because when you listen to Sanatana sing, it kind of makes you feel like you're back in your mother's arms. So no matter, you know, when things are rough, when you're a baby, your mother puts you in her arms and just rocks you, and before you know it, you feel safe and secure.
Yes,
She's got this quality. So I talked to her about let's start sharing this with at least the Kundalini yoga centers. So in 2001, we started. You know, I got on the phone, started calling up the yoga centers, and we got invited to play at a lot of the Kundalini centers, ashrams around the country. And people really loved it, and we loved it too. And so for the next 11 years, that was my main occupation. Sanatam and I did maybe 75 to 125 concerts, workshops a year all over the world. And it went from being 25 people showing up in a yoga center year 1. The next time we'd come back, there'd be 50 to 75. And then we'd come back, there'd be 150 to 200. By year 5, we were consistently drawing 500 plus people. and Spirit Voyage was really, and we were doing a lot of solo albums for Sonatum. I found this great producer in LA named Thomas Barkey from Hamburg, Germany, who was in LA studying Kundalini yoga with Guru Singh, my good friend. And Thomas is both of them are incredible souls, very dear friends. And in fact, I met Thomas because Guru Singh saw that I was recording and financing albums with Sonatum and stuff, and he calls me up and says, "Guru Ganesha, what's going on?" I said, "What do you mean, brother?" I said, "You and I have been talking about doing an album for years, and now you're doing albums with other people, and you're not doing any albums
He
with
was
me."
jealous.
I don't know if he was jealous. He always has a little bit. He says those things very lighthearted way,
Yeah.
So it kind of makes you laugh. And I said, "Oh, I've been meaning to call you, Gurus. I'm going to be out there in LA for Baisakhi. Why don't you find a studio for us and an engineer, and I'll finance the whole thing, and we'll make an album together." And he laughed. He said, "I got just the guy." His name's Thomas Barkey. Not only has he got a studio, and not only is he a great producer, he's a Kundalini yoga student. He plays incredible keyboards, plays beautiful bass. And I said, "Okay, well, let's book it and we'll make an album." And we did. And we made the album called The Game of Chance, or A Game of Chance. And guess who sang on it? The famous Grammy singer Seal. So have you ever heard that album?
Yeah. Well, so you were the one putting Seal.
Oh
On
yeah,
the
I was
album.
the executive producer of that album, and also played most of the guitar tracks on that album.
Yeah. Oh,
And we even got, the album was surprisingly, I mean, it was blowing my, and Guru Singh kept telling us, he's going to bring Seal in to sing on the album. Thomas and I are like, sure, you're going to bring Seal. All right, sure. And then one day Thomas calls me and he says, "Hey, you're not going to believe it. Seal's here." And I'm like, never doubt Guru Singh, never doubt. Because so in any event, so a lot of exciting things happen in those early days. We financed 2 or 3 Guru Singh albums that Thomas and I played with him. We did 10, 11 Sonatum albums, almost one a year, that Thomas produced, starting with Grace. I don't know if Grace was the first one. Maybe it was Prem, followed by Shanti, followed by Grace, then there was Liberation's Door, Anand. So all those albums were kind of like Sonatum. Thomas and I worked on those together. And in the meantime, Sonatum and I, when we weren't recording, we were, I was barely paying attention to my sales training business, which is how I ended up with my partner, thank God, Frank, who really was carrying the torch, and supporting my musical insanity,
you had to fill up your heart again, right?
I had to fill, exactly, man. And and believe me, it's actually makes money now, but in the first 5 years, it wasn't making money. My wife called it my expensive music hobby,
Well,
But
I will say I have to thank you for doing that, because I discovered Snaton through a rough time, and she was the voice that I was listening to. Exactly what you said, like you're going back to mom's. She's like, I discovered her, and later, I was with Ajit a week ago here, and I love Jai Jagdish. I mean, I just
these are all the folks on our label.
I know. I checked your label, and I just say thank you for everybody who knows these singers, for holding that space and investing into it, because your ripple effect is huge, and they don't
By the
know.
way, did you hear Narinjan Car stuff from Vancouver? There's
Yeah,
some of those.
yeah. They
So
really. I sang her song. I am many times, just to accept me.
Yeah.
And doing this meditation for I am. It was her voice, and oh, it's I'm so grateful that you brought mantra.
Well, listen, I can only take some of the credit because around 2005, I got so busy. Sananam and I were so busy touring that I wasn't paying attention to the label as much. And I had some people who wanted to buy it for a nice 7-figure amount, and I was very tempted to take it. But I had hired Karan Kulsa, the daughter of, she just turned 50, but she's back then, I mean, this is 25 years ago, she's in her 20s. She was the daughter of Gurjot Singh and Gurjot Kaur within our community. Brilliant. I mean, a entrepreneurial mind, but a heart of gold. So she mixes heart with the entrepreneurial mind. And I brought her in to be the general manager because I just didn't have time to be doing it anymore, overseeing things. And so when she heard I was this close to selling the company, she comes to me and she says, Uncle G, I don't want you to sell the company. I said, well, it's very tempting. I mean, we could do a lot of good things with this money, you know? And she said, no, I want to buy the company and I want you to stay on as a partner. And I said, well, what are you going to buy it with? And she said, we ended up working out a deal on a napkin. We were on an airplane flying to a health food festival or something where we had a booth and we were going to do a concert there for a natural foods thing. And she totally lived up to it over 3 years. So starting in about 05, 06, she became the 89% owner of the company. I still own 11%. She wouldn't let me. She wanted me to, I was flattered that she wanted me to continue to be a partner in the business. And I'm so great. So in any event, that was the smartest business move I ever made, because owning 11% of the company that Karan has been running now for almost 20 years, I'm a lot more successful financially than when I owned 100% of the company and ran it. So, you know, to me, it's so important to bring the younger people in and give them, that's what we should be doing in the US too, instead of these old guys that just have no clue what's going on in the universe. Just don't get me started on Trump, because I could go off on Mr. Trump for quite a while.
Well, let's stay with the light side.
Yes, thank you. But Karan has been so devoted to Spirit Voyage and keeps it alive. Also just opened up a beautiful healing retreat center in Mahahual on the Yucatan Peninsula in southern Mexico.
Wow.
And
you get her on the podcast sometime.
Oh, you should, and get her perspective on Spirit Voyage and everything.
Yeah, well, but you know, there are some people who hold things and stabilize and build out, but you need people at the front side who deal with everything when there's nothing. And for me, you did that. You did that. So you have to take credit for that.
I'm kind of more of a generator, you know.
Yeah, and like me. So I recognize that quality very much. So really, you've done so much, and I'm just so grateful that you, despite or thanks to the 150 LSD trips, maybe it was thanks to those trips you were looking for a different solution, but your brains works pretty well still. I must say.
Well, I think, you know, one of the claims of Kundalini Yoga is it strengthens and rebuilds your nervous system. And I think in my case, it probably has.
You're stronger now than you were at that time? Are you stronger in your health than you were at that time?
I'm definitely stronger now than I was right before I started doing Kundalini Yoga, after the 150 LSD trips and all the drugs. And yeah, my friends it was kind of an intervention they did on me, you know, that got me out to that log cabin in Western Mass where there was a young couple there who were into yoga and vegetarianism, and they had no drugs around, and all they had was yoga books all over the place. So That's when I first saw the word yoga, the complete illustrated book of yoga, this big book, Hatha Yoga book. And I'm there trying to get into all the postures, because they went to work in the morning and I'm out there just drying out from the drugs. They had a big bear skin or sheepskin by the fire. I chop some wood, make a fire, and I try to do all these yoga postures. But that's also why when I saw the poster for yoga, Kundalini yoga, it resonated because I realized when I was trying to do it on my own from a book that I really needed somebody who knew what they were doing to give me some guidance. I wasn't necessarily shopping for a god or a spiritual teacher or a cult leader, but I needed somebody to give me some guidance on yoga. And so beware out there, because when you start doing yoga, you're going to start feeling so good from it. You're going to think you're going to project it onto whoever is your teacher. They're just a human like you. And you have all the wisdom of the ages in your heart. Every heart fully contains all the wisdom of the ages. But sometimes it gets cloudy and muddy up here. We got to meditate, let the mud settle to feel the heart.
Now let's focus on Guru Ramdas. You said this is your life mantra.
Yes? Yeah. Some people criticize me, the people that are still upset at Yogiji, because he gave us that mantra. But, he was the mailman. He delivered that mantra. I've chanted that mantra probably as much or more than any human being on the planet, maybe any 100 human beings on the planet. Because my wife and I sing it every single morning. On Thursday evening, I have a online program where we chant it 31 minutes, open to anybody. If any of your people watching this,
yeah, we'll definitely share. We will.
Yeah. We can put them on the list and send them the link. There's no pressure. It's totally free. It's just, and we have a little satsanga of people who come on Thursday nights. Then we just hang out and chat. We get people from all over the place, Chile, sometimes Europe, California. But it's nice. We all share. But people say just chanting, and they have to mute because there's still a delay. If everybody doesn't mute, when my wife, she plays harmonium, I'm playing guitar, and we sing, we get like a delay, and it's hard to play. But I encourage people, the fact that you're muted and maybe you're by yourself, hey, really sing out. Don't worry. Start to love your voice. It's really important to love your own voice, and to hear your own voice singing sacred, uplifting words is one of the most beautiful things. That's why singing in the shower is so popular, right?
Yeah. And tell me, what do you relate to the mantra, or does that make you relate to Guru Ramdas?
I relate to the Guru Ramdas, who lived like 450 years ago in India. And he was the fourth of the 10 Sikh gurus. And he's most known for his humility. And even though he was the spiritual guide to thousands and thousands of people, he would disguise himself. This is the most famous story of Guru Ramdas. He would disguise himself at night to kind of look, like a poor person, and go into the parts of Amritsar where where he was to build the Golden Temple later on. He was based in Amritsar. And he would take care of the people with leprosy. He would wash the feet, help to feed the people who were considered to be the untouchables, because there was a caste system at that time that the Sikh gurus were trying to, inspire people to leave the caste system behind. The teaching being we're all one, nobody's high or nobody's low. But that caste system has been there for centuries, and it's still going on. Things are getting a little bit better, but so you're born in a certain caste. It's a little more difficult to get out of it, but maybe easier than it was 400 years ago. But that's those stories about Guru Ramdas, and his teachings were about service. The most joy you're going to get in life is serving your fellow human beings. And the best kind of service, or seva, is anonymous. Nobody even knows you're performing it. You don't need pats on the back. You're just doing it for the purity of helping another, your fellow human being. And so that's the spirit. When I chant to Guru Ram Dass, I feel his spirit. And I can't tell you how many times he's called the Lord of Miracles for a reason. I've been in tough situations in life. One time I got lost on a hike. And it occurred to me to start chanting to Guru Ram Dass because I didn't know where to go. It was getting dark and all of this. And I just sat down. I started singing Guru Guru Waheguru. I didn't have a guitar with me. I'm just hiking by myself, which I used to enjoy doing. I don't do as much now. I hike with my wife, and she's smarter. She's more tuned into directions than I. And so if we get too deep, she knows, no, this way, or the position of the sun, So I just started chanting the mantra. And within minutes, some dude shows up, really funny looking dude with a weird hat and all sorts of things hanging over his shoulders. And I said, hey, man. And he came over and I said, hey, I got to be honest, I'm lost. He said, oh, I live 5 minutes away. Why don't you come over and join us for dinner? That was right after I'm chanting the Guru. And I have similar experiences from chanting to Guru Ram. And I don't do it for a miracle, but if I do need a miracle, I don't hesitate to use the mantra. By the way, I've decided, I feel like I love my soul, the God that lives in my soul and lives in all hearts. So I've decided, because I got inspired listening to somebody speak the other day. I don't even know who, I can't even remember who it was. They said, why not make your prayers big? We can't prove that prayer works, but why not make them big? Because a lot of people believe that prayers work. I believe in the power of prayer. So I'm making my prayers bigger. And a couple of days ago, I started, really praying intensely for peace in the Middle East, peace in Europe, peace in Africa, wherever, peace in the US. Why not?
Yeah.
I'm praying for a worldwide enduring peace to break out while I'm still alive. The whole planet just decides we're going to figure out a way, you know what I mean? And we're going to figure out a way to take care of everybody.
Exactly. And not follow these big leaders who think they can tell us what to do.
Yeah, this whole money power trip is a rat hole, and they don't look happy.
No.
These people have all the power. They look miserable. And I still believe in the power of love. I believe even the government's policies need to be compassionate. I love Taoism. I was reading a passage in the Tao Te Ching recently and was saying, the best leaders, nobody even realizes they're there. They're just in the background, making sure everything's working properly. And when things go well, they don't take the credit. They point at the people. And they say it's the people's love that made this happen. And I thought, wow.
We need more leaders like that, yes.
That's a leader.
Mm. You're such a... I don't know whether you feel it when you listen, but after all the yoga training, I know we can feel each other across space and time. And I can feel your heart so strong. I feel that vibration in my heart. It's so full. It's so warm. Thank you so much.
See, there's no distance, soul to soul. There's no distance in the infinity, So I've been feeling your heart as well. Your heart's bringing the best out of me. I hope my heart's bringing the best out of you. And
yeah, that's why I want you on.
yeah, that
we need
can
to vibrate more, and
well, we can do this again down the road.
Yeah, we will. Yeah,
but Karin, you'd enjoy Karin.
Well, if you introduce me to her, I'd happy to.
I'm going to introduce the two of you. but
Thank-
she's been the heart and soul of Spirit Voyage since '06.
Wow.
And it enabled me to continue touring with Sonata until 2011 when we parted ways. And then I started Guru Ganesha Band with Paloma Devi. And so without cutting, I couldn't have done any of this.
Well, but you were not meant to hold that. You were meant to create new things, and even the Guru Ganesha band is wonderful. I mean, yeah, you uplift others, and then you have to go on uplifting the next, and that's your
Yes,
job.
yes, it's time for your generation, my
Yeah,
friend, to be in the leadership positions, and because you're gonna do it with heart.
great. Do you want to tell something? Let's end this. Let's tell
Uh,
something to the young leaders of tomorrow. Tell them something, whatever
Yes,
you want.
open your heart and then make your decisions with both your brilliant mind and your heart. It can't just be the mind. And make sure that if you get involved in politics, and God knows we need you, that your policies have compassion as an important part. And, you know, there really are no immigrants. There's just human beings. There's just family. There's just brothers and sisters. So treat everybody as a beloved member of your family because that's what they are. Satnam.
Waheguru.
Why?
Thank you so much for coming to this podcast. It's very inspiring, really, to see you recover from some serious addictive behavior, and being open to that, and just lifting up your life, and you continue to do so with your concerts. I mean, if you ever get a chance to be there with the Guru Ganesha band, I say do not miss it, please. We're gonna organize some things with Guru Ganesha online for those who cannot make the trip, who cannot have the finance. We'll make it sure that you can tune into his band, and the mantra bands, because it's so important that we unite now and sing for peace. It's so important. Thank you for bringing this into the world. I think you're one of the few Westerners that really start to do kirtan bands, and without I'm not saying it's because of you, but I'm saying you were part of it, and I want to thank you for doing that, investing into it, and making it so normal now to tap into a mantra band. It
Yeah.
wasn't in your time. It wasn't in your time.
Before my mother passed away, I used to bring her the recorded music and she'd listen to it. Especially wanted to hear the music I was in, she could hear my voice, guitar. And she would say, wow, I love the music, but why do you keep singing the same lyric over and over? I said, no, I'm hypnotizing myself so I can be with my better angels. Oh, she said, oh, really? Is that what you do? I said, yeah.
Yeah, that's why we do it.
That's what George Harrison said, and they asked him in like 1972. He said he was hypnotizing himself to live in his highest self. So,
yeah. Thanks for making us high.
Bless you and the beautiful work that you're doing, brother. Bless you.
Thank you, Satnam.
Love you. Love you.
Love you too, Satnam.
Satnam.